Hello and welcome into the latest edition of the Fore-All Podcast. I'm Jesse Morrison alongside Max Bechtold. And Max, you were out at the U.S. Women's Open. Maja Stark takes the crown this year. I thought it was a pretty good tournament.
Yeah, I think this gave a lot of what you want from a major championship. Obviously, we'll get to the course a little bit more. We'll get to the TV coverage a little bit more. Spoiler alert, I thought both of them were great. You had some interesting storylines mixed in there, a couple of which we'll talk about. You had a really good winner in Maja Stark, a really good player who hasn't done a lot yet on the LPGA Tour, but has always shown kind of that potential. And then you had a really good leaderboard with a lot of exciting chasers. I mean, you had Rio Takeda, Nelly Korda, Mao Saigo, just a lot of good players who did kind of give it a run for a little bit on Sunday. Obviously, Stark pulled away late. But I think the course was so dramatic that it never really felt like it was done because you never knew what could happen.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird tournament, a little bit different than we expected. We thought that the weather was really going to come into play on Thursday and Friday. It didn't as much, and we thought that the scores would be lower scores would be higher and then get a little lower as the weekend got along. I thought that it might be a little bit not difficult enough this tournament to start out, and then the scores just kind of stalled, I would say, for a little bit, except for Maja Stark, who it's kind of deceiving. She was 7 under, but was 9 under until the last 2 holes. The last 3 holes of the golf course were really hard this weekend.
Yeah, and Maja Stark, I mean, obviously that 7 under number is legit. That's what she finished the tournament at. But if she didn't have such a commanding lead, her score wouldn't have finished at 7 under. It probably would have finished at 8 or 9 under. She was playing it extra safe, especially on the final hole, like when she just putted completely away from the hole at the end there. She was playing with a big lead, and she was playing like it. And yeah, Thursday there was a little bit of weather in the afternoon, got a little bit of rain, but Friday was just absolutely gorgeous. Perfect day to play golf. Winds didn't even ever get that high out there. Saturday and Sunday, the USGA really dialed it up. Those greens were moving really, really quick. We got to see some kind of, frankly, funny moments out there.
It was hilarious.
Esther Henselite, who's a great player, and it's always too bad when you go viral for the wrong reasons, but driving a green and getting a double bogey, I'm not sure I've ever really seen that very much, and so, and that's kind of a little bit of what you want to see from a U.S. Open, and this course, especially over the weekend, if you missed your spot by about a foot, it could cost you about 60 yards, it felt like.
Yeah, there were some shots that just kept rolling. It was like, oh, that's a good shot, and then it ended up not being a good shot. Well, it would be a good shot on most golf courses probably, but the way this was designed, the way this was made hard, it just would keep rolling, and so that's what you want out of a U.S. Open, and I thought it was as hard as it needed to be. A player that kind of made it look easy at times, but just couldn't complete her putts was Nelly Korda.
Yeah, every week it's same story. I mean, Nelly Korda puts together an elite ball striking week. She was from tee to green, easily the best player in the field. She was just roping drives right down the middle every single time. She was sticking it close. She was giving herself great birdie opportunities, sometimes really good eagle opportunities. But that putter, it's just, there's serious issues with it right now. And it's just so out of rhythm. She looked, even when she played really well, even her second round where she shot 5 under, she missed 2 putts from within 4 feet. I mean, it's just it's an issue that she's just going to have to work her way through because the ball striking is there for her to continue winning at a high level like she did last year. It's just the putter needs to come along with it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the type of putter she's using, if it's, mental, if it's just not reading the greens.
I think it's mental a lot.
Yeah, I think it's mental a lot, or just not reading the greens properly. That's another thing. I don't know if, I don't ever hope for this because I like when you get used to a player and their caddy, but I don't know if it's the caddy giving the wrong things, giving the wrong instructions.
There's a take. No, I do think I still do think that this is it's because there's such a clear weakness right now that we're even talking about this. Nelly Korda just had a really great week. I mean, she came in second at the U.S. Women's Open, 2 strokes back. This is a tournament she has never really played very well. I was hesitant to pick her this week because she hasn't played well in U.S. Opens before. So there's a lot of good to take from this, and this is still a really positive result. It is just like having the same issue every single week. If the putter is performing at like a B level, she has 2 or 3 wins this season already.
Yeah, and I would say that like she's been the queen of pars this year.
Yeah.
Like when I went to the event in Arizona, I was so excited to see Nelly Korda. I knew she had a long way to go to win on Sunday, and you end up. I feel like when you go to golf tournaments alone, you end up finding the other people that go to golf tournaments alone. And I found one guy that just we basically walked the course together for a while, and just every hole we were like, man, so many pars. Can we see a birdie? And we didn't see a birdie. And then finally, when I stopped following her after like 9 holes, because I had to go look back and look at the leaders, I was like, just man, like. No, I don't think I saw a single birdie from her the entire time. And it was just the putters. Like she was playing well, just couldn't necessarily hit the putter well. And I just, at some point, like she's gonna lose her ranking if she continues to not win.
Yeah.
But the thing that did it kind of surprised me how positive she was after the event. I know it's like her best performance that she's ever had in a U.S. Open, but still, like I think she's got to just like dial in and focus on the putter because like I think she should have won.
I do think it's interesting that you mentioned how positive she kind of came off. Obviously, it was a very heartbreaking way to lose. I mean, if she pars the last hole, that puts a lot of pressure on Maja Stark, and she had to be aggressive, and it was kind of an unfortunate situation for her where she thought she needed an eagle, when in reality she probably needed a par. But yeah, you mentioned about how many pars she's making, and I always think of her. I always have this like go-to thing that I say with Nelly, which is I think she's the best birdie putter on tour and the worst par putter on tour. She makes birdie putts, but she struggles with par putts, even if they're just 3 feet. And it's almost kind of been the opposite this year, I think, where her birdie putting has not been super strong, but she's been able to save par a lot of times by making a good 4 or 5 footer. She had a couple of those really early in the round this last Sunday that kind of kept her in it, kept her afloat early. But we talk about all of this, and this tournament, Nelly dominated this tournament, tee to green, totally. Maja Stark dominated this tournament mentally. She just seemed so in control. She seemed so prepared. Everybody else on Saturday and Sunday looked a little confused, looked a little rattled. Every single time a shot didn't turn out right, they just kind of looked befuddled at it. And Maja Stark knew what she was doing every single hole. It's almost like nothing fazed her. No weird bounce got to her. She knew exactly where to place it, and she got some lucky breaks, and the broadcast talked a lot about some of those lucky breaks.
You got to get lucky to win the U.S. Open,
you
is
have
what
to get lucky.
Morgan Pressel said.
And she's 100% right. And so a little bit of luck with her mental game and the control that she had is what resulted in her winning.
Yeah, and real quick, I did want to touch on 2 kind of positive storylines from this. I know she could have won, but she's still super young. Rio Takeda finishing tied for second with Nelly. I think she's going to win a major here. If not this year, it'll be next year.
I completely and totally agree. Talk about where Maja Stark got some good breaks. Rio Takeda had some really, really bad breaks. And once again, we talk about like going viral for the wrong reasons. The shot from the fairway bunker that kind of went backwards is, I think, one that really circulated on social media. But she had a really good week. So impressed with every facet of her game, especially how long she hits the ball.
Then a couple other players want to talk about. Arya Jutanagarn. I remember I said that she was going to be a player to watch out for in this field. She's been playing a lot better this year. She was 2 under. And then a player that neither of us saw being this good was a player that we saw at the Epson Tour event out here. I believe she was in the final group at the Epson Tour event. So she's been playing well down there. She hasn't been able to really close, but Haley Cooper, I believe she didn't have a caddy when she was out here at the Epson Tour. So that is, outside of Maja Stark winning, that's probably the best story, is her tying for 7th. Like, that's crazy, because that U.S. Open is unbelievably hard, and she plays on the Epson Tour mostly.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really fun. As you mentioned, she's had a lot of really good recent results. Final group, the last 2 Epson Tour events. Final group on Sunday.
Yeah.
Once again, we've talked about how she had a little bit trouble closing, but had to have just been coming in with a lot of momentum. And you look at it, she's already guaranteed to be in the field next year at Riviera with this finish. Finish in the top 10, you get guaranteed into the next one. And then you also look at her payday, a big payday, her biggest of the year, obviously, by far. You mentioned the caddy situation on the Epson Tour and such. I mean, you think about what that money can go to, where you can pay to have a caddy now for a few weeks, for a few tournaments. You can, maybe afford to go play in some of the more, in some of the Monday qualifiers and such. You can, there's a lot that you can do now. It frees her up a lot, and also should give her good momentum for the rest of the Epson Tour season, where she's right now in good position to get her card.
Yeah, and maybe if she gets a caddy, it's another voice on the bag to, say, oh, maybe you should go with a 6 here instead of a 7, or an 8 instead of a 7. Like, those things can help you win. And this was actually her first ever major.
Yeah, it's impressive that she played that well. Obviously, having played a lot of golf in Texas, this is a course that I think suited her well, set up for her nicely. Obviously, when we talk about Texas golf, we talk about playing in the wind a lot, and this is a course that if you knew how to play in the wind, it would really suit you.
And she's a player who was a really good amateur player, won a lot of tournaments as an amateur, was on Junior Solheim Cup teams, Junior Ryder Cup teams.
Yeah, she isn't coming out of nowhere.
Arnold Palmer Cup teams. She's just not had that success as a professional, but maybe she's just a bit of a late bloomer. We've seen some late bloomers on the LPGA Tour. I know we talked so much about the younger players, but I believe Lauren Coughlin,
Sarah Schmelzel, who was in contention this week. Both players who have kind of come up more in their late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on a little bit. We kind of touched on it already, but just the course is a great major venue.
Absolutely, it is. This obviously is a course that has got a little heat from the men's U.S. Open. Surrendered some really low scores. Obviously, that week the weather was no factor at all. PGA players really took advantage of it. I don't think they set it up this diabolically either. This week, I think it showed its true teeth, and I think it shows that sometimes one major isn't enough for a place and then give up on it. And it seems like the USG has given up on putting the men's U.S. Open there. I hope they don't give up on putting the U.S. Women's Open there, even for the men or the women to go play PGA championships there or something. It's a really, really great venue. First of all, having been there, it's a great venue for fan experience. Obviously,
great crowds, by the way.
Awesome,
incredible crowds.
These were comparable with the crowds at Pebble Beach 2 years ago for the U.S. Women's Open. It seemed like, which had huge crowds. Obviously, since then, there's been a few storylines that have kind of made the tour a little bit more popular. Obviously, Nelly Korda, Lydia Ko, Charlie Hull has become a lot bigger, but these were great crowds. And I know this probably isn't possible in the men's U.S. Open. All the parking was on site this week. I've never been to a golf tournament where all the parking is on site. There's no shuttles. There's nothing. Everybody could park there. Free parking, by the way, too. Which was just a great feature to it all.
Well, there's nothing around Erin Hills, so there's a lot of room for parking.
There's just a lot of farmland.
There's farmland. There's a lot of people that have probably milked cows.
Yes.
I always ask Max, because he's from Wisconsin, if he's ever milked a cow. And
there were certainly some people at this event who have milked cows.
I will say that. Yeah, they've definitely milked some cows.
But, good driving distance from both Milwaukee and Chicago, so you get a couple big cities coming in there. And, yeah, I think the viewing was incredible there. There was a lot of stands up on really interesting holes. I spent a lot of time on hole 6, which ended up being one of the more interesting holes of the tournament, and there were huge crowds out there on 6 in the stands, and so I think it's a great experience. It's long and it's hilly, which sometimes can stand in the way of following groups. If you decide to follow Nelly around for 18 holes, you are going to be a little tired at the end of the day. But I do think that this is a great venue.
Yeah, I think I would have just parked it at a hole on this.
Yeah.
On this particular event, maybe 18. We talked about it as well a little bit, but we'll get into it more. Really awesome TV coverage. It was on NBC for a lot of the tournament.
Yeah, 8 hours on Thursday and Friday on USA, and they utilized Peacock finally. I've been wondering all season where the Peacock coverage is, because over the last few years, it's been used a lot, and it's given a lot of extra coverage. And this year, it's been nowhere to be found. It was this week. Pretty great overall. I mean, Morgan Pressel, Tom Abbott, Kay Cockrell, Karen Stupples. This week, Bones Mackay and Dan Hicks. I mean, this crew is a very, very strong crew who gets a lot more in depth, I think, than maybe the PGA Tour counterparts. I think they dive in. I think they talk to the players a lot more. I think they give a lot more insights to player strategy. I did see some complaints that there was maybe a little pro-Nelly bias, which I saw a little bit of it. There was a little bit of... I think there was a little bit of questioning of Maja Stark's play, a little bit too much, but I don't think it was like that noticeable, and it's also just natural. Big stars are going to get a little bit more media coverage.
Yeah, and I mean that's been the complaint with golf for forever, is that like they find the one star and then that's what they roll with. We've seen it with Tiger. They still talk about Tiger and he's like 50 years old, and I'm like, can we talk about Rory McIlroy? He's been the best player for 15 years. So and I don't think Nelly is. I think there's other players that are comparably popular to her, but not at quite as popular as her. So I mean,
it's actually interesting, and this is kind of going a little off topic, but it has been fascinating having gone to. I've been to about 6 LPGA tournaments, 6 or 7 LPGA tournaments since mid 2023. So obviously this is in the time where Nelly kind of took off.
Yeah.
And it is interesting to see how much more popular Nelly has gotten in that amount of time. When I went in 2023, she was certainly one of the most popular players and had good crowds following her, but now it's like completely different. It's completely flipped a switch. She has massive crowds, and so it has been interesting to kind of track that popularity that way.
Yeah, and just to give a little more context here too, like when you're watching her on the driving range, there's a big crowd to just watch her hit on the driving range. So she's definitely popular. I don't really blame networks for covering the most popular player. It's like, a lot of people get on ESPN for covering LeBron too much.
Absolutely.
But like, he's the biggest star in the NBA, and he has been for 20 years. So why would you not talk about him?
Right.
So I don't really have a problem with that. But I did want to say, really like Morgan Pressel's analysis.
She's great.
I love Bones. So I thought that was great.
It's incredible how far Morgan has come as an announcer. I remember when she first started. Believe it was in 2022. I could be a little off on that. But she was just immediately not someone who I was interested in listening to. It was that kind of thing where it had to take its time, where she had to develop a little bit more. And now I think she can carry a broadcast really well. I think when you compare her to someone like Trevor Immelman, who calls most of the PGA Tour events, I think he's a little bit surface level. And Morgan, she's always there with an insight into what the strategy is from either the team around the players themselves, the caddies. I think she's just so knowledgeable. I think she clearly spends so much time with the players, studying the players, and so I think she's come a long way as an announcer, and I think she's really, really good at it.
The one thing I don't like, and I know it's technically branded the U.S. Open, one thing I don't like is when they are promoting coverage for the men's U.S. Open, it's just the U.S. Open, and then when they're like, welcome back to the U.S. Women's Open, like, they could at least say, like, coverage for the U.S. Open on the men's side. Like, they could do something like that, because I just don't really understand why they get the, I don't know. It's been something that's bothered me for years.
NCAA has changed that a little bit, right, with the Final Four, where it used to be the women's Final Four and then the Final Four, and I think now it's the men's Final Four and the women's Final Four. So they've done a better job with that. Like, it happens in golf often. I mean, obviously, KPMG Women's PGA Championship, AIG Women's Open, US Women's Open. It's just,
I mean, golf is, but like the thing is that it's branded that way versus like,
Well, but like even looking at the NBA and WNBA.
Yeah, that's
NBA
true.
NBA versus women's NBA.
Yeah.
Golf, PGA versus ladies PGA. Like.
Yeah, it's definitely something where it's like, I don't know if I would call it like downgrading the tournament or the tour, because it's like,
I think there's a little something there.
Yeah, because it's like, it's not like, because I wouldn't say that like being a woman is obviously downgrading. Like, that's not true. But
it's adding a qualifier.
But it's adding a qualifier. Yeah. There you go. That's the term I was looking for. It's adding a qualifier that, like, oh, this is the PGA, and oh, over here it's the LPGA. Like, that's kind of how I feel about it, and it just kind of bothers me, and I would like them to change these kind of things, and just at least on the broadcast, just say the the U.S. Open's coming up on the men's side. That's all we need. That's all we need to. That's all we really need to do right now, I think.
Yeah.
But I would love it to be changed to U.S. Men's Open, obviously. But I don't see golf being that ahead of the times, I guess, or behind the times at this point. Anyway, we got to get to Happy Gilmore 2.
Yeah.
Because it has two prominent women's golfers. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Nelly Korda. She'll be in it. And then LPGA legend Nancy Lopez.
Yeah, so far these are the two players confirmed, which was great to see when the trailer came out, because we've known for a while that players like Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, etc., we knew that they were all going to be in it. But it wasn't ever clear if there's going to be any LPGA representation in it, and so it was great to see that little flash in the trailer. I don't know how much either of them will be in it. It seems like they're in the like nursing home, which is like, I guess they have to have a scene setting up why they're there. So it'd be kind of weird to have that out of context. So you gotta figure they're in it for at least a couple scenes. But this cast has like 300 famous people in it, so there's only so much time to go around.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if this will be kind of like a Anchorman, where there's the end scenes and it's just like, oh, there's a new actor, oh, there's another actor.
It kind of seems like
it. So, you know what? I'm cool with that. I'm cool with this kind of being a gimmicky movie.
Yeah, I am too. Now, my thing is about this movie that I'm a little worried about. It seems to be completely inaccessible if you don't follow golf. Because there's so many golfers in this movie that I just feel like your average viewer, because the first Happy Gilmore, you don't have to understand golf at all to enjoy. It might almost be enjoyed more if you don't understand golf. This one, I just worry about the random person who's never watched a golf tournament and decides to turn on Happy Gilmore, and it's like, Scotty Scheffler cameo, Colin Morikawa cameo. Like, I don't know how that will work out.
See, here's my proposal for Nelly Korda. I want her to get the putting thing down, and then have a massive lead in one of these tournaments. And I don't know when Happy Gilmore's coming out. Do you know the release date?
July 25th. I believe.
Perfect. So have a big lead, around that time, and Happy Gilmore shot, up like 7 strokes.
It'd be interesting. It'd definitely go viral.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the most viral moment in golf history. So, all right. One last thing. Pretty good tournament this week.
Yeah.
Kind of surprising after the major ShopRite LPGA Classic. It's got a good field. I mean, we got Nelly Korda, we got Gino Titicun, Aka Furue, Lauren Coughlin, Miles Igo, Patty T.
Yeah. This is a really, really solid field, and the LPGA is good about this. This is only 3 days, this tournament is.
Nice.
So you get the extra day. It starts on Friday, so I think that's something that probably encourage some more players to play is, hey, you do get that day off, you get that day to recuperate, and then you go out and play. This is also a tournament, one of the longer running tournaments on the LPGA Tour, first played, I believe, in 1986. So it's good to see a good field turning out. And I think this was honestly a prime candidate for most exciting tournament of 2024, which is when Linnea Strom, who went to ASU, go Devils, she came from way behind, shot 60 in the final round, almost shot 59, had, I believe, 2 shots broadcast live on TV because coverage hadn't even started. That's how far back she was. And so, yeah, it was a super exciting tournament last year, and so I'm excited to see what it has in store this year.
All right, who do you have winning this?
Well, I am tempted to pick Nelly Korda again because her ball striking is so strong. But I kind of liked Lauren Coughlin going into last week. I like her going into this week again. You talk about courses that suit grinders, that kind of grinder mentality, and you see that, like, Ashley Buhai has won this tournament in the past. Obviously, Linnea Strom last year. I think that profile fits Lauren Coughlin well, so I'm going to go with Lauren Coughlin.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Maja Stark is actually playing in this.
Yes, which is incredibly rare to see a golfer on either the PGA or the LPGA play the week after winning a major. That's almost never happens.
She just has that Mamba mentality, I guess.
Hey, and you know what? I think she has a great chance to win this week. I think this could kind of be the win that, you know, opens the floodgates a little bit, because we've known that she's been a really good player in the past. Haven't had the wins necessarily to back that up. I could see more wins happening now.
You know, I'm going to pick Brooke Henderson.
Nice. I like it. She's won on this course before, I believe. Been a while since she's won, so that would be a great story.
Yeah, that's you know, I think it's time for a Brooke Henderson win.
Yeah, both her and Jin Young Ko. You just feel like that win has to be coming soon. It's more a matter of when than if.
Yeah, last win for Brooke was in 2023. It's been over 2 years since she won on the LPGA Tour. So, yeah, I mean, she's a 13-time LPGA winner, 2-time
That's
major
once
champion.
Again, when we talk about, like, not to, like, keep talking about Nelly Korda, but, like, it's so fascinating that Nelly Korda is, like, past Brooke Henderson and wins, because it's like Brooke Henderson for 7-8 years was one of the faces of the LPGA Tour, and it just goes to show, like, how hard it actually is to win out there, that over the last 6 years, Brooke Henderson has been very, very quiet.
Yeah, and you know, she's Canadian, and the Stanley Cup's going on right now, so why don't I just pick the Canadian?
There you go. I believe she's a Senators fan, but
yeah, you know, I'm sure she's cheering for the Oilers.
Probably.
You know,
Probably.
If all Canadians, I think, want to see except for Calgary fans. I bet Calgary fans are cheering for Florida, but I think that most Canadians want to see that drought ended. So we'll see. So hopefully somebody asks her about it this week. But anyway, Max, what's on the site? Fore-All.com, FORE-ALL.com.
There's just a lot of coverage about the U.S. Women's Open. Obviously, there'll be coverage about ShopRite this week. Taking a look more into some rankings. One thing that we didn't mention, but there's an article up on the site. Nelly Korda reached 100 career weeks at number 1 overall in the world. So that's a big accomplishment. Obviously, I believe she's 6th all time in that stat. Obviously, rankings haven't been around for all that long, but still a huge accomplishment. So there's stuff up about that. More coverage of the LPGA's 75th anniversary, more talking about some of the history of it. Had an article this week go up about Sayuri Pak's win at the U.S. Women's Open in 1998, which actually took place in Wisconsin, so it was a nice little connection. That's seen as kind of the tournament that started the South Korean dominance on the LPGA Tour, inspired a lot of the players. So a big, long article up on that. And so just continue moving forward with that. There's some really exciting stuff coming up in that series.
All right, well, go check all of that out, and we will talk to you next week. Talk about the ShopRite tournament, ShopRite LPGA Classic. I said it right. There you go.